How's it going, guys? And welcome back to the channel. Today I want to spend some time reviewing my run from Sword and Shield Cup, which has recently concluded. And as you can see, just from this briefly, there's quite a bit to get through. So I don't really want to preface this too much, but I'll do a little bit of one because we all know I like a bit of a babble. So SS is a tier that typically I do not enjoy. And this is because a lot of the time it just didn't really seem to suit me. There was a while where SS was a lot slower, a lot more methodical in metagame. It was a lot of status, a lot of heal bell, very slow positioning, methodical, and that was a style that suited me a hell of a lot for a while. That's where I was kind of having success in regards to there was a winning DPL where there was kind of elements of that. I had some good individual tours. LDI kind of comes to mind as like a really good individual tour I had with those sorts of teams. And then, funnily enough, it was not long after LDI where Sword and Shield took a major turn towards a much more aggressive and offensive direction, and I just was unable to keep up. And from there, my opinions on SS kind of changed. I still do okay in it. It's one of those things where it's, funnily enough, SS Cup last year was the best small draft event I've ever had. Because let's just say, yes, I ran it for a while, but I've never exactly done well in the individual tours. They're typically a case of look good during pool phase and then get hacked out round two. But last year I made top 16, so I was kind of hoping to do a little bit better, especially with these new tiers, which Addison had spent a hell of a lot of time on, and I thought looked a lot better than what was there previously. So I went into this draft, and I got first pick, which made my life a hell of a lot easier. You can kind of see some of the members here. So I got a Garchomp, and that just makes my life a hell of a lot easier. Yes, the discussion of is Torn better than Garchomp kind of came back briefly for DPL, but it's just wrong. Garchomp is just better. So really, really nice to have this thing. It just kind of does everything you'd want. And the intention was to actually semi-replicate a team that Craig was using in the DPL just gone. And that team was a Garchomp, Zapdos, and also had some fun mons like Nihilego, Starmie, and Grimmsnarl. So that was a team that I was looking at, but unfortunately the Zapdos did not get back to me. That sucked. So I pivoted to a different direction to try a variation of a team that Addison drafted. So I went with the same wheel of Scizor plus Rotom Wash. Now, Scizor is a mon that I typically wouldn't draft, and that's because I'm a weirdo that's like, oh, I want a rocker out of my steel type, so I kind of have the same issue with Melmetal. But Scizor does complement Garchomp well in terms of also having physical prowess, pressures a lot of the same things that Garchomp wants weakened to be able to win in endgames, and vice versa. And, the defogger, which I know is kind of one of those sentences you don't really need to say, because Swish is the generation of heavy duty boots, but I like the option to not have to run heavy duty boots. It's good momentum on, it can be bulky in a lot of matchups, and yeah, overall just really, really solid. And then I got Rotom Wash, which is another mod that I feel like I don't use enough, and it has so many options. I can run screens on it if I want. I can nasty plot with it if I want. I can just run it as a fat status thing that slow volt switches. Lots and lots of really nice options. And I felt starting 3, this was really nice. The only things that were kind of missing were a little bit more special prowess, because Rotom can't be your sole kind of special progress maker, and some more speed. And thankfully, I was able to kind of solve both of them on my next wheel. Those being Crobat and then Blacephalon. Oop, I'm kind of spoiling the next mon there. Whoopsies. We'll get to him. Crobat is a mon that I've always liked in SS, and I am kind of in the old school mindset of SS where the top speed ended once Crobat went. So, and I know Crobat's not seen as good in the last 18 months or whatever, but really good speed, really good utility. Flying stab is just really nice this gen. And yeah, Nasty Plot Crobat is very underrated, and you will kind of see that through the duration of these replays that we will go through. Slight spoilers. And then we get on to Blacephalon, and this is a model that I've seen Palux use lately to really good effect. And so I wanted to kind of test it out myself. And so Blacephalon just has so many options, despite being so limited. Like, it's a good scarfer, it's a really nice breaker, it can has some sorts of utility options because it has access to Wisp and Encore and Taunt. Like, it's just a mon that I've always I've never used it, surprisingly. Like, it was a mon that I really did not like for a very long length of time because I was like, oh, it just gets pursuit trapped easily, and then kind of come Swish, it just wasn't a sort of mon that I had on my radar. So I'm kind of glad to finally use this thing. Have been seeing success with it, and I thought I was going to be able to replicate that, especially into a lot of cores which sometimes just don't have good switching. It's the combination of Fire plus Ghost. So we'll see how that goes. Then we get to Grimmsnarl. And Grimmsnarl is the main mon that I wanted to use a hell of a lot. And that is because I felt that its prankster options were a really nice complement to this team. Giving myself prankster screens, prankster T-Wave, the panic button of prankster trick with like lagging tail to avoid setup sweeps was just going to be a really nice extra layer. And one thing that Craig has shown with this mon is that its offensive potential is really underrated. You can run bulk up sets, you can run just raw breaker sets with like Bandit, you can run Scarf in particular matchups. It just has really nice coverage, like really underappreciated coverage too. And Frisk is also a really nice ability, which is one of those ones that's been underrated for so long. And I feel like it's very cliche to say that it's been underrated for so long because everyone and their mother says it. But it's true. Frisk is great. Intel is amazing in draft. So, really excited to get to use this thing finally. I think I used it briefly in like a Gen 9 thing, so I was interested to see how it went in Gen 8. We then get to, you might realize I only have one rocker, so I kind of need another one. And it's not a TJ team if I don't have a Psychic type, especially in Swish. So in comes Celebi. Now, Celebi is one of these mons that I know a lot of people dislike. There is one person in particular that comes to mind. Yes, that is you, Odin, before you have any sorts of alternative ideas. And Celebi is just very, it's what your typical Pixie Mythical does. It gets a rocks, it has a lot of options, it can set up in multiple ways, has access to reliable recovery, and also has Healing Wish, which is super nice for this team because look at the amount of mons that would just love a Healing Wish, especially Garchomp and Rotom. So I was definitely looking forward to this thing. The price drop for this to 6 points is one of those things that I think helps it a hell of a lot, and that's what kind of put it on my radar. Because back in the day, this thing used to be like 11, and there was no reason to draft this for 11. Yes, you do have the typing issues and the weak to U-turn, but I have a Scizor, I have a Garchomp with rough skin. Like U-turn doesn't look that great in my team. I have multiple good U-turn switch-ins, and I think it's one of those things that can wrest momentum back in a lot of instances if they do kind of get it through U-turn. So I don't mind this whatsoever. Really nice to have Celebi. I think there's a lot of options that I could use throughout the course of the season, depending on the sorts of teams I'm facing. And yeah, it was just a mon I was really looking forward to having, especially as a 7th mon, because I think those first 3, I would be stunned if they don't come to every single game. And then kind of Crobat Blaze, Grimmsnarl, Celebi, pick 3 on like a consistent basis is not bad whatsoever. And then we get to, I had 2 points remaining, and so I decided to come up with a little bit of a Swish cook. We've seen this mon do well in SVE, shout out Sage, but Lapras has some really nice options into the metagame. A big one for me was having the priority Ice Shard, because the fact of, mons like Torn exist, which I'm a little bit iffy against at the moment. Garchomp having the Ice Shard for that is really nice. Really good special coverage as well. Freeze Dry is one that's very nice across the metagame. So yeah, Lapras is a really lot of weird options as well. Like, it's another cleric for this team. There's Future Sight for some reason. I can run Curse sets, I can run Dragon Dance sets. Versus particular regions of fat, I can just kind of abuse them. So, and it gives me a water immunity for the random Dracovishes you run into, because in an event like this, you'll always run into random Dracovishes. So I don't mind having a water immunity whatsoever. So that was the team that I decided to draft. And it was a team that I was really happy with once the draft week was concluded. And I was just kind of, playing for fun. So without further ado, let's hop into some games. We start off here with my round one of my pools games against Shizuko. And just a heads up, I'm not going to pull up matchups for this. I'm just kind of pulling this out because it just kind of shows the way that I approach this event. I was approaching this event for the sake of having fun because there was a lot of Mon things I was in at the time where things were just very stressful. I didn't have the best of GGBA seasons. Trick House wasn't great for me either. So I just kind of wanted to. I didn't have a great seasonal. Like my seasonal was very subpar for what I'm capable of. So I just kind of wanted to use this as an opportunity for just kind of seeing that I'm still in a good headspace when it comes to Mons and like having relatively decent prep. So we look at this against Shizuko. There is some annoying Mons here. The main one that comes to mind is the Urshifu Rapid Strike. Volcanion is also semi-annoying, and Bisharp could be scary if I'm not careful. And if there's one thing that definitely has come up, you will see a bit of a theme is holy Nidos do kind of wreck me and force very specific prep. So without further ado, let's get into what I brought. This is a Rocky Helmet Scizor. It's just fairly phys def. It's my Bisharp check here. The Celebi is a weakness policy set with 3 attacks Healing Wish, if I remember correctly. If I just kind of get that off against like the G-King or maybe a Zapdos U-turn, I'm in a really good shape. The Lapras is AV because it is my attempt of checking Nidoking. The Rotom is Citrus Berry, I'm pretty sure, and like Mixed Bulk because the health on this thing is super important because of Volcanion as well as Urshifu Rapid Strike. It is a Stealth Rock and Garchomp, relatively fat, things like Rock. No, it's Rock Size D. Yeah, there's a lot of me facing Zapdos in this event, so I might mix up my Garchomps. And then the Blacephalon is just an Eject Pack Overheat lead, with the intention of just kind of being able to get out of there versus stuff like a Sash Nidoking or making sure that I don't have an item against Bisharp later. Yeah, just kind of clicks buttons because the combination of Fire plus Ghost is really difficult for him to switch into unless he makes very aggressive switch-ins that try to force me out in the first place, whether that be Bisharp on Shadow Ball or Urshifu on any sort of fire coverage. So, without further ado, let's hop into the game. So I lead Blacephalon as he decides to lead Urshifu Rapid. I go into my Scizor because wanting to scout for the Choice Scarf here. And I just kind of wanted info, and this Aqua Jet reveals that he has protective pads, which is really good information because it means that he will be slower than my Celebi. He U-turns out for free because of the fact he's pads, not knowing that I'm Helmet, and I decide to get a U-turn myself, going into Garchomp. I get up my rocks as he clicks Toxic and misses, unfortunately for him, as I get a Stone Edge off for 43% with him getting the Toxic off. I click SD here, expecting a Roost as he obliges, and I'm just going to click Stone Edge again because he's really pressured by this. He goes Bisharp, which is quite interesting. I go for Stone Edge doing 36. And because of the fact that I don't want to take too much chip on this, I decided to go into my Scizor on what I either expected to be a Sucker Punch or a Choice Scarf knockoff. He goes for knockoff here, as he knocks off my Rocky Helmet. I knock him off this turn, getting rid of a Lumberry. Knockoff doesn't quite kill. I'm able to get a Roost off just fine. And here I'm going to click U-turn because... Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun there. I click Roost again because it's pretty free. He tries to SD to combat that, but knockoff only does 49. I click U-turn here, get the kill, and I'm in really good shape. Like the only issue I have right now is these Zapdos, as you can see. I go into my Blacephalon because the fact that I don't want my Rotom getting toxic right now, because as I mentioned, Rotom is super important here. So I kind of need to make some progress on the Zapdos. I go for Overheat. It does 75, which is really nice. I get my Eject Pack to go into Garchomp, as he makes a good play clicking Roost. I go back into Blacephalon as he doubles into Urshifu Rapid, which was not a play I was expecting. I expected another Roost. He clicks Aqua Jet again as I go into Rotom, and in comes the Galar Slowking, with me clicking Discharge here, doing 23. I go back into my Blacephalon, taking a Psychic, which does a lot, and I'm just going to click Shadow Ball here because it's pretty free. Die to Poison. He gives me the position to get into my Celebi, and instead of sacking his Zapdos, he decides to go into his Slowking as I do 26 and get his Pedef drop. The Earth Power does 26%, eating the Shuckleberry, as Flamethrower, in an attempt to catch my Scizor, procs my weakness policy. And this looks great. I click Psychic, knock out the Slowking. He goes into Volcanion, which reveals to be on a balloon, so I can't quite Earth Power it, but this Psychic, which I believe was a roll, depending on how fat he was, does just straight knock it out. So I know now that this game is mine, unless this Nidoking is Scarfed, but you would have went straight into it if it was, so I can just Psychic here freely. He goes into Rapid Strike, he dies to another Psychic, and he just forfeits because the Zapdos would have died to Psychic. So yeah, really good start to the event for me. The Celebi just was really nicely positioned, and it was able to pop off by getting the weakness policy off. And didn't even need to click Healing Wish. So yeah, really nice start to the event, and kind of put me into some good confidence going into the next game here against PKCC. And this was a game that I looked at once it came out, initially coped for a while, and then realized, holy shit, this is a Lapras game. Because if he doesn't bring Cobalion, which he decided not to, then oh my god, does Sub-DD Lapras go in. And that is the Lapras that I have here. I have Sub-DD, Liquidation, and Megahorn. To go along with it, I have a dual screens Grimmsnarl, which is relatively Spadef, with the intention of checking the Hydreigon. This is a... I don't actually remember what this is in this game. It's Citrus Berry Rotom. It's Citrus Berry relatively Spadef Rotom to be able to deal with Nidoqueen. It's another Rocks Garchomp. It's a Rocks Toxic Garchomp this time. The Crobat, I think, is just general support. No. This is Bandit Crobat. I'm mixing up my games here, and I'm not going to look at them because this is what this channel is about. It's all about being authentic here. So yeah, it's a Bandit Crobat, and then the Scizor, I'm fairly sure, is just a forcing, like, just kind of click, comes in on Blissey and clicks U-turn a bunch. My protective pads to avoid Flame Body. So yeah, the main thing here was going to be getting up screens, getting Lapras in before rocks go up, and then getting a Dragon Dance, subbing up on the Blissey, and yeah, going from there. Subbing up on the Slowbro either, because I didn't think there was any way that Slowbro could be Psychic here, because he was going to need to be Ice Beam, in my opinion. So I was kind of expecting like Ice Beam, Toxic, Teleport, something like that. So I just felt that Lapras was going to be able to sub up on it and have a good time. Anyways, let's see how this one panned out. He leaves Nidoqueen as I leave my Rotom Wash, which is great for me. He goes into his Hydreigon. I just make the safe play and click Hydro Pump, doing 22. He clicks Dart Pulse as I wanted to just kind of scout how much damage he does. I click Volt Switch, that reveals to not be Specs. So I go Garchomp here. I get on my Rocks nice and freely. And I go to my Rotom. Oh, I was actually SD in this game, wasn't I? Yeah, I think I was initially thinking Toxic, and then I changed my mind to Rocks SD because I wanted the damage on Slowbro. Orlando. He goes back into Hydreigon, but he goes into Landorus here as I go into my Grimmsnarl. I think he was expecting me to make... I don't know what play he was expecting me to make by going Lando, but I'm able to taunt to prevent the rocks going up, which works quite nicely. I got my Reflect here. His Earthquake does 47. That's a lot of damage. And he goes Nidoqueen, and I go into my Rotom. Hydro Pump because I'm fast Rotom. He's Passion Berry Nidoqueen. Sludge Wave does not get the kill, doing 49 and proccing my Citrus. And another Hydro Pump is able to pick off the Nidoqueen. Hydreigon's not really able to switch in because the amount of damage is taken. So he goes back to Hydreigon. I go to Grimmsnarl again. He clicks Dart Pulse. This looks very Choice Scarfed to me. And he goes back into Lando as I get up a light screen. I go Lapras here, expecting Stealth Rocks, as he clicks Stealth Rocks. And I'm just going to get up my DD here because it's pretty free. And I'm just going to click Sub. And this is where I realized that I was an idiot. And I forgot to make this Lapras 404 HP. I made it 400 because I forgot to put EVs in it. And I was kind of EVing last minute for certain benchmarks, and I forgot to make it 404 HP. So Seismic Toss breaks the sub, which sucks. And now I'm just going to bank on you not being toxic. So I click DD again, as Seismic Toss, as you can see, does exactly 25. But this is still fine, because Liquidation does 87 on a crit, so this was a Fizdep Blissey. And I'm just going to get my leftovers here constantly. He goes Slowbro, which isn't that surprising. Liquidation does 23. I do get a defense drop, which does kind of suck, but it does mean I can get another sub. But I was going to click sub on Slowbro anyways, because as I mentioned earlier, I didn't think he'd have anything to hit me with. He goes back into Slowbro, getting regen, thinking that he can shammy just fine. Liquidation does 22. And here I can just click Megahorn, which murders. And now I don't click Megahorn for the rest of the game. And yeah, at this point, it just looks done. He reveals Scarfire Dragon, Draco Meteor breaks the sub, but it's too little too late. I click Liquidation. And I'm back at 50 already. He goes Landorus. It's fairly alright at this point because I know he's going to sack Blissey here, but there's no point in me risking anything just in case. No need to get cute. He goes Landorus, which does 51%. He's at 51, so he just dies to Liquidation. And his last mon is the Talonflame, which I'm just going to crit through because Lapras decides that he just wants to take the entire game by himself. So I get the 6-0 win, and this has gone completely to plan. Like I said, this was a matchup that I looked at and was like, holy, Lapras just absolutely cooks him, and I didn't think he'd expect it, and that's exactly how things panned out. My pool phase ended with a forfeit win because the third guy just decided never to respond. So that put me in a really nice 3-0 position, which I don't consistently get in pools. So having that as well as being in the very likely position of getting around to bye was going to make my life a hell of a lot easier, especially with me having content stuff on the side, work on the side, and with DCL starting back up. So I was feeling really good about myself. Also, shout out to PKCC. He also did very well in this event, despite, this sort of... He didn't run into another Lapras, let's put it that way. So I was feeling really, really good after this game, and didn't play for another about 2.5 weeks until round 3, where we came up against Chumi. Now, this Chumi matchup was a little awkward, and you're going to start seeing a fair bit of Victinis. Krookodile is quite annoying for my team, just because Intimidate plus Knockoff. What was really nice about this matchup, though, was his round 1 Mon is a Melmetal, and Melmetal is absolutely terrible versus me, so there's no major surprise that he benched it. Opposing Rotom is quite annoying, and Scolipede, if I'm not careful, could definitely be a pain in the arse. So what I decided to bring here was this is a Charity Berry offensive Crobat with dual Wing Beat in an attempt to get around any sorts of Cobra Berry madness. It's a Rocky Helmet, Fizdef Scizor, it's there for Melmetal. Grimmsnarl in this game is a bulk up set with Sucker Punch to be able to pick off the Victini and the Scolipede, but bulk up overall just looked really, really nice, and +1 low kick surprisingly does like 50% of Melmetal. This is a Power Herb Solar Beam Blacephalon with the intention of catching the Crook or the Rotom, and then just being able to snowball from there. It's also combined. The Garchomp is Stealth Rock Toxic, Earth Power, and Draco Meteor. It was just kind of the best way of wearing his team down. I expected more Fizdef Rotom, so Special Garchomp was a good call. And then my Rotom here was just relatively standard, Will-O-Wisp, Pain Split. Oh no, it was actually T-Wave, I think. Yeah, T-Wave, Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Pain Split. Nothing too crazy. Let's jump into it. So Chumi leaves with his Victinis, I lead Garchomp. This is absolutely perfect, as this gives me turn 1 Rocks, and then a turn 2 Toxic on the Rotom, as he clicks Will-O-Wisp. So that is absolutely perfect start to this game, because I'm getting click Draco Meteor here, and it's going to do 43, so he's slightly more Spadef than I expected. He clicks Pain Split, just scanning to see what I want to do. Probably expected the Draco, to be honest. I go Rotom, as he goes into Tangrowth, which isn't ideal for me. I click Volt Switch here. I don't remember if that's Assault Vest damage. I don't think so. He clicks Knockoff, getting rid of my helmet on Scizor, but since Melmetal's not here, I don't need it. Oh, he's not helmet. I don't remember what this thing is. It's not AV, though, because he clicks Sleep Powder into my Garchomp, which I kind of predict. Draco Meteor just forces a kill there, so he decides to give me the Tangrowth, as I get my Citrus Berry, as he goes into Scolipede. I go to my Crobat, just because I'm kind of expecting an SD, but he just clicks Protect instead. He goes Rotom, as I go for Brave Bird, just don't want to risk anything. He reveals P Helmet on the Rotom, which isn't too surprising. So I go to my Rotom, as he clicks Pain Split, that's completely fine. I try to click T-Wave here, expecting a semi-aggressive Noivern, or for him to be faster on Volt Switch, but it's a speed tie, I think. Or IV to be slower, I don't remember. As he gets the Will-O-Wisp off, I go into Garchomp on a Pain Split because it's my least healthy Mon, because I know that he's still going to be in Draco range after the poison, So Draco's able to pick this off. He goes Scolipede again. I go into my Crobat as he clicks Rock Slide, popping my Charity Berry, which is completely fine. Also revealing to be Life Orb, which is good information to have. Because it means I can just go into my Scizor and it's completely fine. Unless he literally soul read me and clicked SD there. I'd gotten a little hairy, but it was still grand. Earthquake does 29, which is insane. As I get Roost off, and then I decide to just kill him with Bullet Punch because I might as well. He goes into his Victini, which reveals to not be Boots, and I make the executive decision to sack up my Garchomp to a V-Create. And this is fine. Because this gives me the opportunity to go into my Blacephalon, I'm just going to click Shadow Ball, no need to mess around here. And this turn, I just decide to let the Power Herb Solar Beam rip, solely because I just did not think that he would be Scarfing the Crook. And if he was Scarfing the Crook, then my Grimmsnarl won anyways at this point. So I'm better off having the information than risking something. So I just click Power Herb Solar Beam. It absolutely obliterates this Crocodile, which is wonderful. And then he goes into his Noivern. Draco Meteor misses. I wouldn't have been too surprised if this was Specs, so it's just kind of the same thing. If this killed the Blacephalon, then I just go Grimmsnarl, click Spirit Break and a Sucker Punch, and all is fine. I don't think he has an endgame where you can win with Specs Hurricane. Yeah, he definitely doesn't have an endgame where you can win with Specs Hurricane. So that's good. So, +1 Shadow Ball gets the kill there, and then his last one here is the Victini, and which just drops the Shadow Ball. So we have a game showcasing Blacephalon, and all of a sudden we're into round 4, which is the round of 64, and honestly we've not been in any sort of spots of bother yet. So I'm feeling really good about this team, and I'm just kind of looking forward to seeing how far I can get, because there's still some very good teams, some very good players left in this event. So let's just keep moving. We then get to this game against why am I blanking on this game? I think it's Idle. Yeah. Actually, I can check on a different page. Yeah, I know, really professional recording here, guys. But you know, this is what to expect from this channel at this point. So yeah, this is Dave slides into your DMs. I knew Dave was involved in it somewhere. So this was, the first Kartana I've seen. Tapu Lele is pretty annoying, but the biggest threat here is by far the Blastoise, because Shell Smash Blastoise is terrifying in this generation, especially if you've seen TDG cook. Because TDG is basically thought through every way a Blastoise can beat like any mon in this tier. So it's absolutely terrifying with very specific sets. The scariest one for me was going to be Shell Smash Physical with Normal Gem boosted Double Edge, because that just outright kills Rotom unless I'm Cheelon. And I just could not afford to be Cheelon here. So those first 4 are very annoying. Well, the first 5 actually. Like I said, there's another Zapdos. And the Galar Weezing is just kind of there as like a pseudo Garchomp check, but it doesn't really. So the team that I have this time, I have a Choice Scarf Blacephalon, because it is just really good because he does not possess a Ghost Resist. So that is not surprising whatsoever. I then have a Yache Berry Celebi because this is my attempt of checking the Blastoise, but it is Stealth Rock, Leaf Storm, Expanding Force to be able to take advantage of the Psychic terrain. So that kind of means that Zapdos can't just come in and roost on me for free, which is really nice. So that's good. I have a Fat SD Garchomp here with EQ Iron Head Stone Edge as my coverage. I also have a Lumberry just in case the Weezing does try to get cute and just Will-O-Wisp me, because Strange Team only does like 50. It's great. Pretty standard Rocky Helmet Rotom, but I am predominantly Spadef just to kind of help a little bit with the Lele matchup as well as Zapdos. I have another Rocky Helmet on Scizor. I think this is about the 3rd one we've seen at the minute. Just because, there's Kartana, it makes sense. And I round out the team with a nice little Life Orb Crobat, because look at his team and then look at Crobat. The big thing is that +2 Life Orb Sludge Bomb can kill a Zapdos, which is just really good here. So I think I was just very much in a position where I either get it to the point where he has no sorts of defense against Scarf Blaze, or the Nespot Crobat just absolutely kills him. Let's jump in. Dave leads Zapdos as I lead Rotom. as he clicks Toxic, which is not surprising, and I Volt Switch on out of there, getting into my Garchomp, because I see this as an SD opportunity. This very much is an SD opportunity, as the Weezing comes in. I click Iron Head, he's surprisingly not Berry Berry, which I still would have two-shot anyways, and he clicks Strange Steam, avoiding my Lum. I pick it off with another Iron Head. Cortana comes in, I go into my Rocky Helmetmon, as he clicks Leaf Blade, and this is looking to be Scarf. I click U-turn, I get Static Powers. Oh well, I don't really need that thing speedy. And I'm just going to click Stone Edge here, as he goes back into the cart. I go Scizor again, I'm still expecting knockoff, but that's fine. Knockoff does 36, and he goes into Cinderace, as I get powered on what I believe was a Roost turn. He clicks U-turn into my other Rocky Helmetmon, which is quite nice, and he goes into his Lele. Clicking Future Sight, I just Volt Switch on out because I kind of want info, and I get my Celebi in here, which gives me the opportunity to get a Brox, which I do. And then Expanding Force does 63 to Zapdos, as he attempts to see it as a free turn to click Roost. I take the Future Sight, it does hardly anything. He goes back into the Lele, and I click Expanding Force again, doing 34. And I'm just attempting to sack my Garchomp here. He goes for Future Sight. He goes Blastoise here, which was a little bit confusing, as Earthquake does 52, so it is revealing to be an offensive Blastoise. That might have been a misclick, I don't honestly know. And here I just click EQ again as he gives me Cinderace, which, yes, Cinderace didn't look amazing into the rest of my team, but still surprised he did that. Future Sight picks me off. He goes Cart, I go Crobat. He's probably switching here into his 51% Zapdos. I click Heat Wave, and I'm just going to follow that up with a Sludge Bomb, because it's pretty free. He goes Blastoise, which is just going to die to Life Orb Giga Drain. And all that leaves him with is two Mons that should just instantly lose to my Crobat here. He goes for Scarf Knockoff, does 51, and Heat Wave misses, which could get a little bit hairy. I go Scizor on the knockoff, but thankfully this was a 50-50. He could have gone Lele. I'm not sure he expected Vacuum Whip though, because I feel like if he goes Lele on a U-turn, the game is just instantly over. But, you know, it's fine. I get the Vacuum Wave off. He goes Lele. And he clicks Moonblast. He does get a kill. But I'm just able to go into my Blacephalon here and click Shadow Ball and clean up the game. Could have gotten a little bit dicey with that Heat Wave miss. But overall, I was in control of this game from start to finish. And it's yet another win. Really happy with this one because I had to play this early in the week before I went away on holidays. So it was really nice to just kind of get a really solid victory. And this puts me into round 5, which I believe is the round of 32. And with the way that I'm playing at the minute, I'm starting to fancy my chances a bit. So here we see my round 6 match against King Choco. The Cinccino Bring was a slight surprise here, but at the same time, I get it because of the threat. Because of some of my threats. The main one is kind of the Garchomp. But just the coverage in general is quite nice. So, it's another Lele. Zarude is quite annoying in my team. It's another Rotom. And the Incineroar, this was yet another team that had Melmetal. So, it kind of forces my prep into a very particular mold. But yet again, you see the Melmetal chosen to not be brought. So that just showed how anti-Melmetal my team was. So, starting this team off, you have yet another Nasty Plot Crobat. This time with Adrenaline Orb, just to be able to catch out the Incin, because I felt that was going to be one of his go-to responses. And Hurricane Sludge Bomb Heat Wave does just kind of cover everything. We have a Fizdef Grimmsnarl with screens, because screens are just good, and it can help in terms of covering the Zarude as well as the Garchomp. We then have a Boot Celebi with Stealth Rock, Leaf Storm, U-turn, Recover, from what I remember. Yeah, you know, it just kind of clicks U-turn on the stuff it needs to, gets rocks up, which is important, and can semi-check the Lele. We then have a Mental Herb Garchomp. This was specifically for Encore's Zarude, and it's sub-SD, and that's solely because I wasn't 100% sure if Rotom would run Hydro Pump here. So I thought he would try to status me first, so getting the sub off would have been really, really nice. Then just, you know, fairly normal Rocky Helmet Rotom, and Then we end this team with a Scarf Scizor, because the speed tiers for Scarf Scizor were really, really nice in this matchup. And yeah, Scarf Bug Bite just looks really, really strong. And getting that pressure onto Incineroar just makes Crobat's life easier. So let's see how this one panned out. He leads Cinccino, I lead Scizor, and yes, this is a Mon that I don't outspeed with my Being Choice Scarf because I wanted to ensure that I had Adamant, and I just did not want to get knocked off here. So I decided to go into my Garchomp as he clicks U-turn, which is fine. He gets Ruskin off, he goes Lele. Not particularly fussed about it. I go into my Celebi, he clicks Moonblast, which does 40, which is fine. That special attack drop does suck, solely because of the fact that he's sub. And I'm surprised he's sub, seeing as there is an Infiltrator Crobat right there, but, you know, it's fine. I U-turn out, which doesn't break the sub, he clicks Calm Mind, and I am forced to reveal that I'm Choice Scarf Scizor here by clicking U-turn, and I'm going to go back into my Celebi. Expecting T-Bolt, and that T-Bolt is exactly what we see. I click U-turn here, doing 18, and opt to go back into my Scizor, because I don't mind it taking a Moonblast, if it has to. But I click sub. I know Bug Bite should kill from the range of 64. He goes for Moonblast, doing 53. And I don't need this thing healthy, I just need it alive. And thankfully he gives me this. But I kind of get why, because if he's not Boots and Sin, well, this is kind of what I'm insinuating. If he's not Boots and Sin, then that's his claim to kill. Unless he was... And it was for free unless he was literally Ruskin, Rocky Helmet, Garchomp, which I felt was just kind of a waste of a Garchomp in this matchup. Also, I definitely just said this was a Melmetal team when it was not a Melmetal team. I don't remember what the 6-Mon was. Whoopsies. Yeah, a lot of these games were a while ago. So he goes into his Rotom, and that's fine because I can just go into my Celebi again on the Defog, which was kind of expected, but also definitely tells me that this Incineroar is not Boots. I go for Leaf Storm, playing it safe, as I think he might slow Volt Switch on my attempt at getting it rocks, because I can always U-turn out on Incin, as he U-turns out himself, and I'm just racking up chip on the Incineroar. It's really nice. Zarude comes in, which means it's time for Grimmsnarl, as he clicks Seed Bomb, getting consistent damage, and my Reflect just immediately gets broken by Spirit Break. Good prep on his part. He clicks Seed Bomb, I decide to get my Spirit Break damage off for 57%. And I go Crobat here on Unexpected Synthesis. As we see Jungle Healing, same idea. As he goes into his Rotom, I'm going to click Sludge Bomb here, doing 36. This is a Fizdef Rotom. And he Pain Splits on my incoming Garchomp, which is completely fine. I click Sub, trying to be cute, but he unfortunately does click Hydro Pump immediately. But that's fine. I'm going to go Celebi here, as he clicks Hydro Pump. And this time, I'm not making the same play that I already did. I'm just going to go ahead and get my rocks as he goes Zarude. I go Garchomp here because it's completely fine to sack at this point. It's basically useless to Darkest Lariat because this gives me the opportunity to go into my Scarf Scizor and click the Bug Bite button. Or U-turn out because I still don't know what the Garchomp is. I go Rotom as the Garchomp comes in, and on this Rotom I click Will-O-Wisp. Because of the fact that I still have a Celebi alive, this is completely fine. He defogs. I Volt Switch. I might have actually tinkered with my IVs this time. Look how smart I am. And I just know this is another free rock opportunity. So why wouldn't I take it? I get rocks up again. I decide to swap Hard out in a Rotom Wash just because I wanted to get the Rocky Helmet chip on the Incineroar. And I still don't know if it's not Boots. I attempt to sack my Grimmsnarl to the Zarude, but he clicks Darkest Lariat. And he tries to get the Jungle Healing off. I just click Spirit Break, which is completely fine. And I just go hard Crobat on another Jungle Healing. And the reason being is I kind of felt it would be nice to have Grimmsnarl in the endgame to get up a Last Ditch Reflect. And Crobat was very free at that point, so I might as well. I get up a Nasty Plot, because Nasty Plot at this point looks like it wins the game. Click Sludge Bomb, picks off the Rotom, very nice. He goes into his Cinccino. And I'm not surprised this is Scarf. Just kind of the way he's been playing it and kept in the back. He also went into this immediately, which kind of put the alarm bells off. But thankfully, I EV'd this Crobat very well because it lives 5-hit Rock Blast, which I didn't realize until I actually calculated it. So +2 Sludge Bomb picks up Cinccino very nicely. And this game should just be over if I can land one Hurricane. Good God, Nasty Plot Crobat does not want to win any sorts of endgames, does it? It should have two really nice ones. Oh well. Ratsum picks off the Crobat. He goes into his Zarude, which is just going to get Will-O-Wisp here. That's fine. I know Jungle Healing's a thing. I'm going to go Hard Scizor because I don't die to Bird Darkest Lariat. And I'm just going to, as we see that the Incineroar is actually not heavy duty boots, and I'm just going to Bubble Bite here, get my kill. As he goes into his Garchomp, I'm going to go Celebi here because it is definitely a useless Mon. As he clicks Poison Jet to pick me off, I go to my Rotom. He clicks Draco, which is surprising, doing 49. I go for Foul Play, which does not kill, and puts me in range of the next Draco. But at this point, all is completely fine because I have my Scizor that can just win the endgame with Bullet Punch. I'm just playing it nice and safe. I'm not risking any sorts of shenanigans. I just click Bullet Punch to end the game. Yet another case of this game could have been a hell of a lot easier if Crobat decided to actually love me. But it's fine. Nasty Crobat positioning has just been really nice these last two games. Yeah, this was just... No, this was a Melmetal. This was 100% a Melmetal. Yeah, you could just hear the internal struggles in my head of like, there was another top tier money bench, and surely it was a Melmetal. That's why I've Rocky Helmets again. But yeah, the main thing here is I just think Scarf Scizor was really forcing. The Subcom Mine Lele definitely put me in a slight spot of bother. And that was just because he predicted really well that I wouldn't be like a physical infiltrator Crobat against the Melmetal, which is honestly fair. But Scarf Scizor just put on a ton of pressure, and I managed to position it for Nasty Crobat. And even with Nasty Crobat not quite working out, I was able to pull it together and get the win. So that puts us into a position where we're in top 16, matching us up with our run last year. And in top 16, we come up against Steinbob, who I believe is a fan of the channel from me talking about this. So hope you're doing well, man. And yeah, I got rid of the music. Hope you're enjoying that. Anyways, so we see yet another Cinderace, we see yet another Rotom, and we see another Garchomp. Except this time there's a Togekiss. And Togekiss is a bit of a demon for my team, specifically because of Nasty Plot sets. If he opts for no Air Slash and goes like Dazzling Gleam plus Flamethrower, it's really annoying because I struggle to kill this thing, and it does a lot of damage to me. Galarian Darmanitan also just has very specific pivots in this matchup. And it kind of forces me to play Riptide away, so I'm not surprised that it came. Cinderace, I didn't think was too scary, as long as I was like careful with my Garchomp. Rotom. Another Rotom, I'm getting sick of playing this thing, and then Jirachi is definitely a little bit of a wild card. So, in terms of what I brought this time around, we started off with a Choice Scarf Celebi because I didn't really know what the hell to do with this Celebi, to be honest. So I just decided to Scarf it because I thought I might be able to kind of get a surprise kill on a Scarf Galar Darm. Or like a particular Garchomps. And yeah, I would also just get a Brox, get a fast Healing Wish off, or like a fast Earth Power on like a Cinderace. So that could have been good. We then have a Weakness Policy Lapras with Dragon Dance. And with the combination of Ice Sharp Run and then Freeze Dry to be able to hit the Rotom, it actually looks quite solid in this game. It was one of those things that kind of just prompts up and was like, maybe this is a Lapras game. It also gives me a deterrent for particular Galadarn clicks because I kind of doubt he brings superpower here. That's the main one. And having the ice resist is nice. This is yet another rendition of a Lumberry Garchomp with SD, as we go for SDEQ Stone Edge and I believe Dragon Claw. This just, sets up on a bunch of the team. It's very good at dealing with Cinderace, and yeah, he just has a really hard time dealing with it. We then have a Rocky Helmet Rotom, another one, but this time I decided to go for a Nasty Plot set. The idea being, if I'm able to lead this into a Galar Darm, I can get a Nasty Plot off, and then just really put him into major difficulties, unless he U-turns specifically into Encore Jirachi. Which if he's Encore Jirachi, I can do accordingly. That's fine. We then have a Life Orb Scizor, just SD dual priority because it's quite forcing against this team, and I do think I'll be able to get Chip off on the Cinderace to allow for +2 quick attack to do enough. And Rotom's also pressured. We've kind of seen a theme of that throughout this video. So we'll see what happens there. And then just rounding it off, with another choice Scarfless Cephalon. This is yet another game where there's no Ghost Resist to be seen. So Scar Shadow Ball endgame should be pretty promising. So, here we go. Lead Darm, lead Rotom. This is perfect. He U-turns. He takes Helmet Damage. He goes Garchomp. I click Nasty Plot. This is wonderful. He goes for Toxic because he thinks this is a support Garchomp. Hydro Pump does 78. As he reveals speed lefties, he gets up his rocks. Do I miss a Hydro Pump? I do not. And Garchomp is dead by turn 3. This is fantastic. He goes into his own Rotom. He clicks Volt Switch. He's faster than mine. He goes Jirachi. I get a Pain Split off. And this is wonderful. He's leftovers Jirachi, so he's clearly a support based. He goes for Zen Headbutt, takes Rocky Helmet damage, and flinches me, which is fine. I would have liked to have gotten the discharge off, but it's completely fine. Because I have a Jirachi at 37% and a dead Garchomp in exchange for a Rotom. This has gone very well. So I go into my own Garchomp here, as I go for SD. I click Dragon Claw, doing 61% to Rotom, which clicks Hydro Pump and only does 36 in return. Dragon Claw picks off the Rotom. He goes into his Darmanitan. I just decided I'm not going to risk anything, so I decided to sap my Celebi, which is effectively useless at this point, because the two main mons I needed it for are dead. He clicks Ice Cold Crash. He goes into Jirachi as I go for Dragon Dance on my Lapras, and I get a Drill Run off and get the kill. With a crit, I don't think the crit mattered. So he goes Togekiss, I go for Dragon Dance again, expecting to get hit of some kind, but he goes for T-Wave. Thankfully, I have Ice Shard to just be able to pick off this thing before he attempts anything crazy. Dazzling Gleam only does 28, that's wild. I possibly could have attempted to Dragon Dance again, but I did not want to get to the point where I was just going to get Air Flash flinched to death. So maybe I should have tried it once, but I still felt very confident in this position. He goes Cinderace. I don't quite get the Ice Shard chip I wanted, which kind of sucks, solely because it would have been nice for Quick Attack on my Scizor. It just would have been nice for that range, but it's fine. I go Garchomp because I'm a bit worried about Sucker Punch Cinderace. He goes Darm on an EQ, and I'm going to go Scizor here because I know if he Flare Blitzes, he dies, but he goes for Ice Cold Crash. That's fine. Does 46. I go for Quick Attack, pick off the Darm. I reveal Speed Life Orb. I'm going to get my Quick Attack off on the Cinderace, and he just Powerballs, picks me off. I go into Garchomp, thinking that the game should be completely fine. He goes for Double Edge, just about not killing as EQ is able to win the game. I did have a far safer route around this, which was called going into my Scarfless Cephalon and clicking Trick as he goes for Sucker Punch, because I just Trick Lock him into Sucker Punch at that point. Because he didn't have a click that could win the game at that point. Double Edge was his way of getting around Garchomp, or High Jump Kick, obviously. But yeah, I'm able to get the win. That was a bit of a nail biter, but the lead plan went absolutely perfectly. To be honest, most things did. The Rotom went really well because it was able to get me a 1.5 for 1 exchange. That got me Garchomp in to get an SD opportunity, which allowed me to get off the Rotom. And then I was just kind of able to use the Darmanitan Ice Cold Crash click in the way that I wanted to get Lapras into a good position, which was able to give me the Jirachi as well as the Togekiss. Got a little bit here in that in-game, which possibly happened because of my lack of rocks, but I kind of knew that was plausible because Celebi was the most useless mon here. And that gets us to the quarterfinals. So we've already A, beaten last year, and B, have it tied as my best team tour, as my best solo tour event ever, to go along with LDI back in 2021. Wow, a while ago now. And in quarterfinals, we took on Roller K. Now, Roller K is someone that has done very, very well in these events. He is the 3-time winner, I believe, of the Smogcord Draft Premier League. Just like the tour they run in the Smogon server itself, not the draft one, the main one. And anytime he just enters one of these events, he does super duper well. Also got drafted in DCL this season, and yeah, just one of the nicest, just like a really nice guy. So I was really looking forward to this game until I kind of saw the matchup, where it was my first Koko of the season, and Koko's pretty annoying. It's another Victini, another Hydreigon, which in theory could be quite annoying, and a Corviknight to kind of put my Garchomp in track. So I kind of had my work cut out for me. So I knew that I was going to need to get a little bit funky. And if there's one thing I'm capable of doing of an SS, when I have worked with Skyhorse for so long, it's get funky. So, starting us off, we have a bulk up Grimmsnarl with Custap Berry. Because, I thought that Custap was going to be able to get a surprise kill on either the Hydreigon or the Mienshao. Maybe Koko as well. Because the EVs that I had meant that I lived a hell of a lot of Dazzling Gleams. So we just have a Spirit Break plus Fire Punch and Sucker Punch then to just be able to pick off any Victinis. We have an SD Garchomp with 3 attacks, fairly self-explanatory, Dual Stab plus Fire Fang, not much else to say. We have Roselli Berry for the Koko, and that's about it. We have another Rocky Helmet Rotom for the collection. That is solely just for, U-turn Mienshao, U-turn Corviknight, as well as Flip Turn on the Swampert. Mixed bulk EVs just because they help Victini, and yeah, Full Switch, Charger Pump, Toxic Plane Split, nothing too crazy. We have a Heavy Duty Boots Scizor that is Spadef because it's my best way of dealing with Koko. And yeah, it just U-turns, it bullet punches, it has Defog here just to enable my Blacephalon for later. And yeah, and Roost, obviously. We then have another Rocky Helmet here, this time on the Celebi. Same idea, just to kind of punish the U-turns that could be coming my way. And this just Stealth Rock U-turn Healing Wish. And then I've gone for last move Leaf Blade. And that is because Leaf Blade allows for me to be able to solo a Calm Mind Koko. And Calm Mind Koko was very scary here if I was not careful. And rounding us off, we have a Choice Scarf Blacephalon with Dual Stab Trick and last move Explosion to just be able to give me that big hit on a Hydreigon if I need it. So let's hop into this quarterfinal game. Quarterfinals. I lead Rotom, he leads Koko. He goes for T-Bolt, doing 42. I go for Toxic, and I'm delighted to get a turn 1 Toxic off on this giant threat. He goes for T-Bolt again. I get a Pain Split off. All is good in the world. And this turn I decide to pivot into my Celebi, which is unfortunate because this is when he decides to click U-turn. But at Koko 24, I will not complain. Because at Hydreigon, I go Grimmsnarl. I first find his leftovers, but he reveals to be Flash Cannon, so I need to start making some pivots to get myself in the Custap Berry range. He goes for Flash Cannon, and I'm pivoting into my Grimmsnarl here to figure out his fire move, but he is not, because he opts to go into his Corviknight, which I reveal to be lefties and not Helmet. This U-turn crit actually helps me a hell of a lot as I click Bulk Up, as my Custap Berry activates and Spirit Break is able to pick off this very likely Choice Scarf Mienshao. Major case of advantage me. I go for Sucker Punch, doing 30% of the Hydreigon, as Flash Cannon picks me off. This gives me the position to go into my Garchomp, as he goes Corv, which is completely fine. I go for Scale Shot because I can't really mess around the Hydreigon because it's a giant threat. I get 5 hits, but it does absolutely nothing. That's fun. I go to my Rotom here, just expecting a U-turn, but he clicks Iron Defense, which is fair enough. You probably expect an SD. He goes into his Koko, as I go for Volt Switch, as I get in my Celebi, hoping he dies to poison, as he does. Hoping he doesn't die to poison, but unfortunately he does. This gives him the Hydreigon again. But from the information we figured out earlier, it doesn't seem as if this Hydreigon has coverage for me, which is interesting. Kind of made me think it's Nasty Plot, because Roost is definitely the third move on this set, so I'm interested to see what the fourth is, because it could have been U-turn. I think if it's Fire move, you definitely would have clicked it by now, because you've conditioned me to the point where I have to go Scizor on it. So I imagine it has to be Nasty Plot. I click Bullet Punch as he goes into his Corv. I stay in on the U-turn this time to just click Roost, which is all good. I go for U-turn, getting damage on the Swampert as I go into my Celebi as he clicks Rocks, because I see this as an opportunity to trade Rocks. He probably sees this as a way to be forcing into my Scizor, but alternative way of being forcing into my Scizor is to just go Victini, as he opts to click Glaciate, expecting me to go hard Garchomp, which, it's a fair enough mid-grant. He turns out to kill my Celebi, taking the helmet damage. Probably not one in the position where Garchomp is in, but he gives me the position to get in Garchomp anyways, so that's kind of surprising. He goes into his Corviknight here. I, once again, not risking it against this Mon. I just click Scale Shot, play it nice and safe. No reason not to. In my head anyways, because I know I have positioning outs. Here I opt to click SD, because I kind of expect the Roost to come out. And I'm just going to go for Firefang, do 54. He clicks Iron Defense because I know here that I can just pivot into my Rotom or pivot into my Blacephalon. I opt for Rotom here. He clicks Roost. That's completely fine. And I'm just going to click... Did I click Toxic here? I'd like to think I clicked Toxic. Oh, I clicked Pain Split. That's completely fine too. We are going to trade Toxics this turn, which is not that surprising because both of us would rather if this bulky water was dead on the opposite side. I go for Hydro Pump, doing 24 as he flip turns out, taking Rocky Helmet, which is annoying because it gives him a mon to always switch in on Pain Split, so I'm going to have a hard time keeping his Rotom healthy. I go Scizor. He goes Dark Pulse. The crit does 55, which means that the next one could potentially kill. But I make an aggressive play because I know that if he goes Victini on a Roost, I'm in a really bad spot. If I go Blacephalon, he goes Hydreigon. I just click Shadow Ball. All is fine. He's still a lefty Hydreigon. I go Garchomp expecting a Roost, as I am proven correct. As he goes into his Corv. As I just click Scale Shot again. Once again, just playing it nice and safe around this Hydreigon, because if I get the SD play wrong at any point, I'm still not sure if he's got Dragon Move. And I don't want to lose this game because I got greedy. He goes for Iron Defense as I go to my Rotom. I know the Swampert's coming here, so I decide to double into my Scizor on, I was expecting the Swampert to come in on Pain Split. He goes Corv again as I opt to Roost up. This time though, I decide to go hard Blacephalon on an Iron Defense, just because my Rotom's not healthy at this point, so it's not ideal. He goes on his Hydreigon again. The temptation to boom was very much there, but I decided to click Flamethrower instead. You know, this is getting very boring at this point. He roosts up, going into the Scizor, and here I decide to click Defog. And the reason I decide to click Defog is because it's just very forcing. He goes for Iron Defense. I click U-turn to get on out of here, go into my Blacephalon that's no longer taking rocks damage. The main thing, yeah, and then I decided to make this play because it was finally about time that I decided to take matters into my own hands. So I just double here into my Garchomp, predicting the Hydreigon, and in it comes. The play was a hell of a lot easier to make once the rocks were off the field, and rocks were just not making any progress for me on his side, but they were definitely going to harm me in the future more than him, especially with my Blaze. So here I click SD finally, because I just kind of decide he's always going Corv. And this game, at this point, was always going to come down to, could I get a flinch or a burn on the Corv? And the answer is yes, I get the flinch here. And this is just, looks like GG from here. Firefang picks off the Swampert, so I can get the Pain Splits off later. He goes Victini. I was an idiot. I forgot to creep this thing. I only crept the Hydreigon. But I'm definitely surprised he was max speed Victini. Doesn't really matter though. I get the kill on the Victini. All that's left is the Hydreigon of the Corv. I go Scizor because I know it's pretty free. Dark Pulse does 33%. He goes Corv. I click U-turn. I go to my Rotom because I know Volt Switch is free. And I knew I lived one more turn because of my toxic percentages. So I click Volt Switch. I know the game's over at this point because I can just go Garchomp and freely click the Scale Shot button. Scale Shot does pick this off. Yes, it requires 4 hits. So maybe if this 2 hit, it might have gotten hairy. But realistically, what I would have done... No, it's still fine at this point, because all I would have to do at that stage is just click U-turn. He would... Well, no, actually, just click Bullet Punch, because he would have to... he'd have to flinch me with Hydreigon, realistically, to have any chance of getting back to the game. Which, he only had a chance because of my bad speed creeps. And so I just go Hard Blaze because I know that he has to Iron Defense or Roost here. And it doesn't matter. I go Corv. So I click Flamethrower into this bird. And that gives me the win. And all of a sudden, we are into semifinals, making this my best ever individual draft event. And that leaves us with 4 players. It is myself, J-Scurf, Agency Zone, and Joe Monkey. 2 of which I know are proteges of the Queen of SS herself, being Addison, and Joe, who had some fairly impressive results, but also a lot of games where he was getting quite lucky. So I didn't really know what to expect. And I didn't really know who I wanted either, because there was downsides to all of them, but there was also some upsides. And so we get to semifinals. SD is also a slight issue, but yeah, they're both just not great for my team. And I was quite fortunate to not run into one up to this point. There's also an Aegislash, which is rather annoying, solely because my primary Ghost Resist is weak to Steel. So that's also not ideal. It can just kind of click moves. But thankfully, I know it needs to be boosting item here, because if it's not, it just can't get through mons like Scizor or Garchomp fast enough. It's also the combination of Feeny plus Komao. Komao is like really annoying, both in terms of like a Dragon Dance perspective as well as can check Blacephalon. So that is why you don't see the Blacephalon in this game. What I did decide to go with, though, was I have this lead Lapras set with Throat Spray Sparkling Aria, because if I'm able to get it in as a lead versus Mudsdale, it forces a lot of particular lines, and then the coverage of Freeze Dry, Ice Shard, just to be able to get some extra damage, and then Body Press for Weavile is just really nice. It should force a minimum 1 kill. I also have yet another Rocky Helmet Scizor. I believe that puts us up to about 5 in this tour. And what that is intended to do is it's actually mostly Spadef, because I need that for Aegislash. Possibly could have gone more Fizdef for Weavile, but I decided against it. Fairly standard set, just U-turn Bullet Punch knockoff to be able to get rid of the heavy duty boots on the Zapdos, and then Roost. We have a Choice Scarf Celebi because DD Komao is scary, and we have gone with Dual Stab, U-turn, and Healing Wish. The Rotom is probably the most interesting thing I have here. It is a Nasty Plot set, but is carrying Misty Seed. And the idea behind that is a consumable item, to mean that I'm not weak to Weavile. And stored power is just as strong from +2 special attack +1 Spadef as Disarming Voice would be versus Komao, and also doesn't run the risk of potential soundproof. I know Bulletproof looks a lot more likely because of the Blacephalon stuff I mentioned earlier, but that's kind of it. We then have a Fat Garchomp with Rocks, Toxic, EQ, and Dragon Tail, with IV'd specifically to not be to be slower than Zapdos, so that if he clicks Roost, I can just EQ it. And lastly, the team is rounded out with a bulk up Grimmsnarl with Weakness Policy, with Spirit Break, Sucker Punch, and Power Whip. So let's get into our semifinals game. Are we going to make it finals? I lead Lapras as Joe leads Weavile. He switches out in Aegislash, scouting for the Body Press, which he is correct. As the Aegislash goes for Shadow Ball, revealing to be Modest Spell Tag, and that's a max roll. I go for Sparkling Aria, doing 69%, and my Throat Spray activates. Shadow Ball does not kill me. I'm able to pick off the Aegislash, which on paper looks great, but because of how much prep I've actually catered towards Aegislash, this is actually the worst mon for me to get early game, because it just makes me look more susceptible to other stuff. He goes Weavile. I just get off my Ice Shard chip because there's nothing else Lapras can really do unless I want to try aggressively switch in on Mudsdale, but most of this team can come in on Mudsdale just fine. I go Grimmsnarl as he decides to go into Zapdos as I click Bulk Up. And he goes for Hurricane, doing 44, as Spirit Break does 41, gets the special attack drop. I decided to pivot my Garchomp here. The reason being is I wanted to get Rocks up as soon as possible, and I also wanted to Toxic this thing as soon as possible. I possibly could have stayed in and just bulked up again, but I'm not 100% sure that would have worked out. Especially because he always just kind of has the free enough Feeny. This works out though, because of Volt Switch. He goes Mudsdale, I get up my Rocks, and I'm going to Toxic him as he attempts to get up his Rocks, which is fair enough. I go into my Scizor here, looking to just kind of scout this thing out a little bit. I thought Roar might be the click, so I was like, Scizor wouldn't be the worst thing to come in. But he clicks Body Press. I get Rocky Helmet damage. That's not too bad. As we see the Zapdos, and I click Roost solely because I was worried about being in Weavile range. This should 100% have been a knockoff click, and I regret it completely because getting the boots gone from this Zapdos. I also did not think he would go Zapdos. I thought he would actually stay in. But yeah, clicking knockoff would have been free because getting rid of the lefties was nice enough, but the high upside of getting rid of the boots on this thing would have completely swung the game in my favor. So I switch out into Garchomp here, just scouting to see your U Heatwave, but I imagine a Roost is coming, and that is exactly what happens. He sees the leftovers of my Garchomp for the first time. He has seen Toxic, so to the surprise of not many people, he decides to pivot into his Tapu Fini. It could have been Mudsteel either. I go around and Wash to activate my Misty Seed and just to kind of, as he clicks Knockoff, and I'm like, this is perfect. I'm able to get an Astapod off, and I should get a big hit off on the Como, which is the only one that can come in here. I go for Stored Power, and it does 38, because this is a Max HP, Max Spadef Assault Vest Como-O. This definitely caught me by surprise when you already have a Spadef Fini, and that, yeah, you already have a Fini that could well be Spadef, and Como-O's ability to click Dragon Dance here is really potent. But, you know, it worked out very nicely. He's able to get the Dragon Tail off. There goes all my boosts. Drives me into Garchomp. I decided to click Dragon Tail here, which is a bad play. I actually should have gone Scizor here. I was too worried about... Yeah, I should have gone Scizor here and then pivoted back into Garchomp. To kind of let the Misty Terrain subside. And just kind of scout for Fire Punch at the same time. So this did not work out whatsoever. I take an Ice Punch doing 71. I get the Rough Skin off at least. And Dragon Tail doesn't pick up the kill because of the Misty Terrain. He gets Zapdos in though. He misses a Hurricane, which I don't think would have killed. Yeah, it wouldn't have killed, as my Toxic also misses, but we both hit on the second time around. Unfortunately, I am down to a 16% Garchomp for the exchange again with Toxic on a Mon, whose boots should well be gone. He picks off my Garchomp, I go to Rotom, because I feel like I have to. He Volt Switches, he's obviously going Como here to prevent Pain Split, so I just Nasty Plot up here, because my only way of killing this is actually +2 T-Bolt, or +2 Stored Power, but I go for T-Bolt. Picks up the kill. He goes Weavile. I go into my Grimmsnarl. I feel like this possibly could have been the turn that I go Scizor. But I kind of felt like the health on Scizor was very important because of the fact that Fini was still alive. And Grimmsnarl was not going to do a hell of a lot for the rest of this game. He goes for Knockoff. He is showing to not be Heavy Duty Boots. So that's nice. So he's showing to not be Banded. He's already shown to be Boots. Icicle Crash picks me off as I get the Sucker Punch damage. And here I just go into Scizor. I know this is a fairly free U-turn. As I go for Knockoff this time, attempting to catch the Zapdos, when arguably I should have just U-turned and attempted to kind of keep the game going. But as you can see, I'm very much in the back now. I go for U-turn this time, just to get on out of there, as I go into my Celebi. As +2 Body Press, thankfully only does like 25. I'm able to pick this thing off with a Psychic, but this is a free Weavile because of the fact that I'm Choice Scarfed. But he doesn't know that. He just sees it as a free aggressive switch in. Knockoff does 49 because of the fact that I'm Spadef. And he goes into his Zapdos as I go for the safe Bullet Punch solely because it was a 50-50. And I think the only way that I was in any way going to be able to get back into this game was actually clicking Knockoff into U-turn on a potential Roost. And just somehow getting this to the point where I could Healing Wish up my Rotom to win the game. But at this point, it does look like it's just not meant to be. As he reveals to be Heat Wave, my play here was to hope for a Hurricane miss, but he was last move Heat Wave, which was a bit surprising. I wasn't 100% sure he needed it. I thought last move would be something like Roar or potentially Toxic, but nope, he goes Heat Wave last move, so down goes my Scizor. Zapdos at 54. And here I click Healing Wish just to get one last ditch effort off of my Rotom, as he thankfully attacks, because if he roosted there, the game was hella over. He goes for Volt Switch, does 31 to my Rotom, as he goes hard into the Tapu Fini, which here reveals to be Max Spadef. What I actually should have done here was possibly just click Nasty Plot and hope that I was just able to raw kill through Fini. But that would have required getting very lucky. I click Plot here. Like, I don't necessarily need to, but it's, you know, it's kind of much of a muchness. I go for T-Bolt. It's just making sure that the Weavile and the Zapdos will die. Knockoff doesn't pick up the kill because of my Misty Seed, but Zapdos is going to be able to clean me up. And unfortunately, that is where the run ends. It's a game I regret a lot. I think I was very safe both in prep aspects as well as in play aspects, which is something that I was definitely at fault for kind of a few years ago, and I kind of thought I got out of the habit. So this was a bitter pill to swallow as a game. I think if I kind of took the prep a little bit more on the aggressive side and made a couple non-safe plays, like if I knocked off that Zapdos earlier, I think Healing Wishing the Rotom, it would have kind of been able to pull the game back, because every Volt Switch would have come with a caveat of you have to come back in and take rocks, and that would have been huge. But congrats to Joe. He definitely did. He was the better player kind of in this game, so he deservedly moved on to finals where he would take on J-Scurf. And he didn't really showcase himself the best, I don't think. J-Scurf won that game pretty handily. And congrats to him. Like, he actually had a phenomenal run from start to finish. And ran into some matchups that he was just kind of able to execute a game plan really well of trading things down to the point where he had win cons. That's how his team was designed, and that's how it was played. Very well done by Scurf. But yeah, overall, I think there is a lot of positives for me to take from this. Oh boy, this is going to reveal all sorts. No, it's not. This is just old mocks, actually. I didn't realize this wasn't refreshed. But yeah, here we are. There's all the teams in a beautiful aesthetic order where almost everything got to be first mom once. Well, everything did get to be first mom once. I know people were questioning why Lapras was first slot in semifinals, and this was why. Because I'm strange. But yeah, at the end of the day, this was a really good event for me. I was really happy to kind of be able to get a top 4 finish out of it. It puts me in a nice spot ahead of seasonal, where I think if I have one more good event, I should be in a really good position for circuit. And it would be really nice to kind of make a circuit, because, like I said, small drafts events haven't exactly been my best friend at the best of times, so getting the points would be really nice. Anyways, guys, this has been my SS Cup run. And if people want to kind of see more recap stuff like this, I definitely could have done more in terms of like an editing job of this, but because of the fact that I hadn't uploaded a video in a while, I decided, yeah, let me just talk through this. I might as well. And I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I shall talk to you in the next one. Peace. Well, actually, I do have one more thing. And that is something that I just decided on a whim to ask about, to do for fun, and I thought it'd be an interesting way to end the video. So, as you can see, I took on J-Scurf in an unofficial game. Obviously, this was not the most efficient prep from either of us. It was just off the back of DCL. So we just decided to throw something together. So looking at this matchup here, J-Scurf opted to bench his Entei Aerodactyl, which was not surprising whatsoever. And I've decided to leave my Lapras and my Celebi at home. So going into what I actually brought, I brought a 4 attacks Life Orb Scizor with 3 priority moves, which is quite fun. This is a fast Cheelon Berry Rotom to deal with a Shell Smash Blastoise. And I have just gone for nothing too crazy here. Just like dual stab, and then Pain Split Nasty Plot. This is a 3 attacks Taunt Crobat with Lumberry to get around Thunderwave Togekiss. I went for Infiltrator, although it should have been Inner Focus if I was thinking, which is not the only time you hear me say that. It's a Rocks 3 attacks offensive Garchomp with EQ Stone Edge Flamethrower. The Grimmsnarl is physically defensive Trick Lagging Tail, the one and only time I'm actually bringing this set the entire run. And to round out the team, we have my Blacephalon with the Eject Pack double strong fire move. I have Overheat and Mind Blown on this set. Shadow Ball and Taunt. As you can see, I'm quite worried about the Shell Smash Blastoise. That's why I have quite a bit of Taunt going on, and I also have the Trick Lagging Tail. Anyways, without further ado, let's see if I'd made it to finals, would I have won? So I leave Blacephalon as J-Scurf leads Mew. He goes into his Scrafty as I quickly realize I'm an idiot because Eject Pack works on Intimidate. So let's just say if I had more time, I probably wouldn't have done that, because I would have liked to have gotten the head off. But it's fine, because I'm able to get in my Crobat as he goes Nidoqueen, and offensive Brave Bird does 60, which is wonderful. He goes into his Mew here to take yet another Brave Bird, which does 43, and I am just going to U-turn out, proccing a Citrus Berry in the process. I go into my Blacephalon, expecting rocks, and that's exactly what happens. Scrafty comes in as Eichling Mind Blown, doing 66, proccing another Citrus Berry. Overheat's able to pick up the kill though, meaning I can keep my Blacephalon. Get a Beast Boost. He goes Cart, that's completely fine. I'm just going to go into my Garchomp here, as he clicks Knockoff, getting rid of my Yache Berry, and also revealing to be Life Orbed. I decided now is the time to set my Blacephalon, because it doesn't really offer anything else, now that I know what the Kartana set is. So the card's at 69, I can go to my Crobat and bluff Heat Wave here, as he goes into his Togekiss, as I just click offensive Brave Bird again, doing 49, but I have Cross Poison to be able to pick this thing off. He goes into his Mew. I did not want to deal with a Roost or a Nasty Plot here, so I click Taunt, although in hindsight, that click possibly should have been just Brave Birding for damage. He goes for Psychic, doing 36, as I go for Discharge, which does not paralyze. He goes for Psychic again, I get the Discharge off, get my kill on the Mew. He goes Cart. I'm going to sack off my Garchomp here because Rotom is important since it's fast. And I get the Kartana down to 47% here. I go to my Scizor, knowing that I can pick it off with Vacuum Wave, and I do just that. He sees my Life Orb. He goes into Blastoise here, and clicks Surf rather than clicking Shell Smash, and it doesn't kill, as Bug Bite gets rid of the Lumberry, which I imagine was there for Prankster T-Wave. I'm able to click Quick Attack and get the kill there, and then he is left with an offensive Nidoqueen, which dies to a Bullet Punch, as I also die. So yeah, bit of a messy game, seeing as it was two relatively quick preps, and I know if this was the actual game, J-Scurf would have tried harder, and also asked Addison, but we won't say that. But at the end of the day, it was fun to just kind of do something different and get one last use out of these teams. And so that concludes my SS Cup run. It, like I said, is my best event that I have had in Smoke on Draft. My best solo tour ever, actually. I've never made top 4 in an event, so let's keep doing that, huh? Seasonal's just around the corner. We're in the middle of drafting that right now, and Usum Cup isn't too far away either. So if I have 2 good events, I should be in a really good spot to make circuit, and that would be really cool. Anyways, I hope you guys have all enjoyed this absolute slog of a review, and I shall see you in the next one. Peace. Like, actually peace this time.